Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia conduct fourth negotiation round on trade deal. Vietnam to develop the manufacturing sector. Hello and thank you for tuning into another edition of Bizline brought to you by VTV International. You are with me, Lina Pham, and as usual, we start our show with several headlines in the economic and business scenes for the past week. The fourth negotiation round on the Trade Promotion and Facilitation Agreement in the Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam or CLV Development Triangle area took place in Vietnam's Central Highlands province of Đắk Lắk. Officials from the three countries focused on resolving remaining difficulties and obstacles to soon reach consensus on clauses and finalize the agreement on schedule. As set by leaders of the three countries, the agreement is expected to boost trade activities and goods movement among 13 provinces in the triangle of the three countries. These provinces are rich in natural resources and boast advantages for agricultural and forestry development. However, underdeveloped infrastructure has limited trade and development in the area. Minister of Industry and Trade Trần Tuấn Anh and Russian Deputy Minister of Energy Yuri Senchurin signed an intergovernmental cooperation agreement on geological and petroleum exploration in Russia on April the 20th. Also on this occasion, both sides signed a protocol amending the agreement on further geological and petroleum exploration of the Vietso-Petro joint venture. The development underlines the mutual strong support and priority of the two countries in developing the petroleum sector. Vietso-Petro has so far extracted 220 million tons of crude oil, contributing nearly $47 billion to Vietnam's state budget. The Ras-Viet-Petro joint venture is conducting exploration activities in 13 oil fields in northern Russia's Nyanyansky Autonomous Zone. Foreign businesses will be allowed to distribute fuel products in Vietnam if they invest in the country's oil refinery projects, the Ministry of Industry and Trade said, citing the government's decision. A would-be joint venture between Japan's Idemitsu and Kuwait Petroleum International Ltd. is likely to be the very first beneficiary of the new regulation. The two companies, which are involved in constructing Nghi, Vietnam's second oil refinery, have applied for registration of the Idemitsu Q8 Petroleum. The 200,000 barrel per day Nghi facility, located in the northern province of Thanh Hóa, is scheduled to start operation in the summer of 2017. During U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to Vietnam, he held a meeting with Vietnamese startups on April the 21st. The event is hosted by the Vietnam Silicon Valley, a project to create an ecosystem of innovations and technology commercialization in Vietnam. The innovation event is also a chance for Vietnamese startups to open their network and connect with U.S. companies to seek ways to enhance startup ecosystem in Vietnam. As part of the event, the U.S. has officially launched the Ambassadors Entrepreneurship Challenge. The winners of this competition will receive seed money to bring their ideas to the market. For the last few years, many projects and events have been launched by the U.S. in a bid to boost creativity and entrepreneurship among youngsters in Vietnam and regional countries, including the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, Angel Investor Study Tour to the U.S., or the Fulbright University. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit is seen as the lead-up to President Barack Obama's tentative visit next month. Trade between Vietnam and South Africa has yet to meet its full potential, according to the Vietnamese ambassador to South Africa, Lê Huy Hoàng. He made the comments at a forum aiming to enhance cooperation between the two countries in maritime transport held by the Vietnamese embassy in South Africa in Pretoria on April the 19th. Addressing the event, Hoàng said the forum provided a platform for enterprises in South Africa to learn about the maritime transport industry industry in Vietnam, in line with the country's efforts to attract foreign investment. Two-way trade reached around $1.2 billion last year, far below its potential, largely due to high transport costs. The Vietnamese embassy also took the occasion to promote Vietnam's agricultural products and seafood, coffee, trout fish, and fragrant rice to businesses in South Africa. Thailand will receive Vietnamese workers in manufacturing and service sectors, in addition to construction and fishing. The change is among the main contents of a mutual labor agreement between the two countries, currently under discussion. On Wednesday, Minister of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs Daw Ngọc Dung and Thai Minister of Labor General Sirichai agreed to pilot, allowing Vietnamese to work in Thailand's manufacturing and service sectors for a 5-month period. If all goes well, the two countries will sign an agreement to open the labor markets further. The deal will also include regulations such as a $15 2-year visa for Vietnamese workers. The move is intended to cut the number of Vietnamese illegally working in Thailand. We have just reviewed some of the several business and economic headlines over the past week. Up next, let's learn more about the future development of the manufacturing sector in Vietnam in our Crosstalk. The Vietnam support industry is still young and underdeveloped. Local firms are now just able to handle simple assembly, the lowest value-added stage of the whole production chain. While Vietnamese businesses are struggling to find the way out, a huge wave of investment from neighboring countries, especially Thailand, start to gain popularity in Vietnam. Thai projects mostly focus on manufacturing industry, with a total of 200 projects worth nearly $7 billion. In our Crosstalk this week, our reporter Linh Hương sat down with Mr. Doang Day Yukwam Di from Thailand to further find out about this trend. Doang Day Yukwam Di is the Deputy Executive Manager of the Ritradex Company, a regional leading trade exhibition organizer. Thailand currently ranks 11th among 112 countries and territories investing in Vietnam. According to figures released by the Foreign Investment Agency under the Ministry of Planning and Investment, Thai investors has launched 428 projects all over Vietnam, registering some $7.88 billion. Thailand's investment mainly focuses on processing and manufacturing sectors, pouring some $7 billion into the sectors, representing 88% of Thai investments in Vietnam. The most prominent contracts are world-leading industrial zone developer Amata's $1.6 billion coal project with Tuần Châu Group to build an industrial zone in Quảng Ninh province, which will come into operations by 2030. The 700-hectare industrial city located in Bien Hoa City. So far, 130 businesses have registered to locate their factories in the city. Siam Cement Group, or SCG, take over of 85% stake of Vietnam's Prime Group in 2012, which is valued at $227 million. With Prime being the biggest ceramic tiles producer in Vietnam, the transaction has been so far the biggest trade deal in Vietnam's construction sector. Burley Joggers take over of Metro with $880 million. Thai Central Group's acquiring a 49% stake in owner of Nguyen Kim, one of the largest electronics malls in Vietnam. Thonpo Thailand Funds purchased a 5.32% stake of Hoàng Huy automobile manufacturer at $6 million. Thai leading automobile manufacturer Charat Chakan purchased a 27.5% stake in the owner of Vietnamese partner Trường Long. Statistics showed that most of Thai foreign investment transactions are conducted under joint ventures with total value of $5.5 billion. It is followed by 100% foreign ownership, while a small number of businesses follow business partnership.
Thank you very much for agreeing to take part in our interview.
Thank you.
First of all, FDI influence in Vietnam for the past few years has focused on the manufacturing sector, which accounts for almost 54% of total FDI into Vietnam. Could you tell us more about the impact of this inflow into the sector?
From now on, the difference is they will focus more on the high precision product, especially for the electronic and also the automotive parts. I think that to become engaged with the other partners, especially from the USA and the Japan, Vietnam will gain more the advantage to produce the high-end precision at the export hub. You will become the production. So you will draw a lot of the FDI come to here. I think that the very important thing is do not be afraid of the FDI investment, but try to commit and engage like a joint venture to do together to learn the knowledge, to see that what they are going to do, to see the process of the work. I think this is very important. And if you already fulfill on this part, I'm sure that just like other countries, some of the workers, some of the shareholders will split and to set up their own company. And at that time, we will have a lot of the leading pure or 100% Vietnamese manufacturer.
Currently, Vietnam's export sector is still mostly driven by foreign invested companies. So in your opinion, how can Vietnamese domestic companies gear up to raise their added value and be more independent?
I think we need to focus first that what's the positioning of the country. For example, in the Malaysia, when they focus the country, they focus at the brand leading. So in the automotive sector, they produce the car as a Proton. But for Vietnam, I do believe that you don't position to produce your own brand, but you position your country as the supporting industry. So this means that there are three periods of the developing. The first one is you do what the brand leader manufacturer want you to do. The second thing is lead to the joint venture. This means that Vietnamese manufacturers and owners, they have more experience and then they can try to develop something together. They get more knowledge. And I think for to be the independent, you are going to move to the third period. This means that you have R&D to produce the part and the product and offer to the brand manufacturer. For example, Taiwan, they do this as R&D and then they own their product by themselves, but they still do the OEM. The important thing is we need continue R&D and the advanced technology to be independent, but we are positioning on the supporting industry.
Developing the supporting industry has been recognized as one priority of Vietnam. The key driving force is Vietnamese supporting manufacturers, 80% of which are small and medium-sized enterprises. Lack of capital is one of the major difficulties for these firms, as the supporting industry often requires large investment for machinery and production costs. Manufacturing firms like this equipment producer are struggling to meet the large capital demands of the company's operation.
Mình không dám sản xuất đại trà, không đủ vốn để sản xuất. Giờ mình hoạt động cầm chừng thôi và giảm số lượng công nhân xuống.
Accessing bank loans also seems to be difficult. The main reason hindering manufacturing firms from utilizing loans from credit institutions is the short terms required for repayment.
Vòng sản xuất ra một sản phẩm nó trên 6 tháng. Tuy nhiên hiện nay cái quy định vay vốn lưu động là đáo hạn là trong thời gian 6 tháng. Điều này chỉ phù hợp với các doanh nghiệp thương mại, còn đối với doanh nghiệp sản xuất, nhất là ngành cơ khí và công nghiệp hỗ trợ thì nó phải cần từ 9 tháng đến 1 năm thì mới là một dòng vay vốn lưu động được.
Easing access to capital for manufacturing firms, therefore, is an urgent issue for policymakers in Vietnam.
At the moment, Vietnam does not have a strong supporting industry, and that's why it has been very hard for the country to really integrate into the global value chain. This means that it will be also very hard for companies from Vietnam to take advantage of the TPP, especially due to the rule of origin. So what is your suggestion and comment about this?
I think that it's just like the other country. For example, Japan. In the first time when they commit to the manufacturing sectors, they still need to copy and learn from the European country and the United States. But once they learn how to produce the good thing, they have their own idea. Finally, they can create their own product. Vietnam also, at the moment, you are on the state of the learning. what is the standard, what is the regulation that the buyer country need. After you learn and you are familiar with, it will engage you to the better standard, upgrade your own self for the high precision product. So on this stage, it will help a lot that you can generate your own product to support to the buying country, and you will be the leading. So to me, I am not worried much because you are on the process of learning, and the Vietnamese people, they have eagerness to learn.
How would you describe investment from Thai company in Vietnam for the past few years and future direction?
Right. You can see the investment from the Thai Auto Summit, that it invests a lot for the automotive part manufacturing. You can see the industrial estate from the Amata Group. That is long time ago. After the Vietnam economy is growing up, we can see the engagement of the garment business, especially when you have the partner like the UK, like the USA or in Europe countries. People from Vietnam, like Thai garment, that they set up the Vietnam garment, one of the huge factories, and create a lot of jobs here. So I can say that most of the big garment factories in Thailand moved to have the operation here already. And the third trend is about the retailer and also for the food and all the beverage, like the big huge superstore.
Now let's take this point into a bigger context. Vietnam is part of TPP, right? Thailand is not part of the TPP, but Thailand and Vietnam are part of the AEC. So how Thai investors see this whole picture and take advantage of TPP?
In some sector like the garment, we see that the disadvantage, because when we compare to export garment from Thailand comparing to Vietnam, we have the at least 17% cost comparing to Vietnam. So we turn the weakness to be the opportunity by to be joint venture with the Vietnamese manufacturer and invest together. You are very good in the supporting by the government policy. We have the knowledge. Once we combine together, I think that Vietnam manufacturer and Thai manufacturer, both of us been together for becoming the global production to export to other countries around the world.
While Vietnamese firms are struggling to maintain and expand operation, foreign investors have eyed to pour capital into supporting industry of the country. Thailand currently tops the list of countries with investment in the supporting industry in Vietnam.
I have exchanged view with many people here and learned that they were impressed with the capability of Vietnamese suppliers. Particularly, they can supply parts to the many well-known product, electronics one here in Vietnam, which I think very impressed. For the company, particularly many Korean products here that are made in Vietnam, they rely on Vietnamese suppliers.
At the Vietnam Manufacturing Expo 2016 held earlier this April, over 200 producers from 20 countries and territories have participated to look for cooperative opportunities.
To another exhibition to look for new opportunities for sourcing and to see what are the possibilities we have to source for our company, yes, industrial parts, mechanical parts.
Vietnam's manufacturing industry is said to have yet developed with its full potentials. With the participation of foreign producers, pressure for local firms to improve their competitiveness will only get more intense.
When the TPP takes effect, Vietnam will lower the tax on new cars on the 13th year and lower the tax on steel, petrol, and iron on the 11th year. And these are very long-term tax commitments. And it gives Vietnam's auto industry and industrial sector to have more time to make proper transition. So in your opinion, what should Vietnam do to make use of this transition time?
I think that you have about 1 decade to prepare yourself. If you do not think now, at the end of the 1 decade, all the import car will move a lot to be here, and your car production here will get nothing. But anyway, because you already alert about this, what I'm going to see and suggest is we need to ensure that all the car makers here, they start to produce some part and decrease the export part from their own country. And in the meantime, we have about 5 or 6 years to develop our OEM manufacturer to increase the capacity, the high standard. So if we can do this, I'm sure that in the next 10 years, car production in Vietnam will be cheaper comparing to the import one. And at that time, you have no need to be afraid. And also, you can export some part that the high-end one you already produce, export to Japan and other countries also.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership will help boost the global value chain, and each TPP member country, such as the US, Canada, and Japan, has been playing a very important role in this chain. So how can Vietnam get the knowledge transfer from these companies?
When we see the TPP member countries, we have to separate into parts. The first part is the buying country, just like the Japan, United States, or some country in Europe. And the second part is the production part. Vietnam is one of the production part of this member. So it means that you have the very good opportunity to produce your product and export to buying country. So to gain the competitive advantage, other countries like Thailand, like the Singapore or Philippines, they need to come to settle down in Vietnam to invest a lot of things. We can see one of the significant business is the garment. Now the garment around the ASEAN country move to settle down in Vietnam and enjoy the export to the America. If Thailand set up the manufacturer in Thailand, we need to pay the 17 tariff tax. But if we move to produce here, we have no need to pay tax. The advantage that the Vietnamese will receive is you have a lot of the knowledge, you have a lot of the job creation. I think that is very good.
Now, from the standpoint of your company, which is a global firm focusing on supporting industries, how do you view Vietnam supporting industries?
As the member of ASEAN, looking at the Vietnam, we can see that Vietnamese manufacturers growing very fast and one of the shining stars of the AEC. Together with the good vision of the Vietnamese government, you do not engage only AEC, you engage with TPP and other economic engagement. This means that you have opened the opportunity to export. For example, competing with the ASEAN country, you can export to Japan without the tariff. Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines cannot compete to you. So the important thing is when you engage on this, you need to ensure that you develop the product according to the standard that this country want them to be. I do believe that the knowledge is not enough, but the technology is the key important to drive, and Vietnam will become the global production hub. That is very important to this region.
Industrial products will be subject to greater pressure from integration. So as an exhibition organizer, how will your company try to engage Vietnamese manufacturers and industrialists to really catch up with business opportunities?
Do the networking, bring the buyers around the ASEAN, including the Japan, come to meet the manufacturer in Vietnam and let them engage the business to learn, understand each other. Yeah.
Part of the solutions to help supporting firms is to improve the weakness of Decision 12 issued by the government in 2011. According to Decision 12, supporting firms are able to get loans with preferential interests at as low as 0% with total amount of up to $5 million. However, until recently, not so many firms have succeeded in getting these loans due to the complicated requirements as well as the short-term repayment of 6-month cycle.
Chỉ có mười mấy đơn vị tham gia trong tổng số tới mấy trăm đơn vị.
This La Phuc company is one among those that has successfully applied for a $4 million loan.
Nếu mà không có chính sách mà kích cầu của thành phố thì thực sự ngay chính La Phuc cũng không dám vay. Bởi vì cái lãi suất làm ra thì sẽ không trả đủ cho cái tiền lời ngân hàng.
Not so many firms have been as successful as La Phuc in applying for those loans. Thus, there should be measures to enhance the effectiveness of government supports to ease access to low-cost capital for manufacturing firms.
Now let's talk more specifically about the automobile industry.
Right.
How can a strong supporting industry contribute to the development of the automobile industry?
Automotive manufacturing in Vietnam, they are not the producer, but they are the industry that buying the part around the world, and then you compose it together here. The key important thing is supporting industry in Vietnam still not produce the high-end part. Here we still need to import from Japan, from Thailand, or some from the Philippines. What we have to do now is move our part to be the high precision, and I'm sure that you can do. So you produce the high precision part by yourself, it means that we will decrease the import part. And by the other hand, the volume that you have, you can export to Japan as well, because Japan still needs a high precision part. And when you export to Japan, you don't have the tariff because of the member of TPP. So I think that at the moment, Vietnamese manufacturing needs to be serious about the automation, about the high-end machinery. You need to open your mind and import a lot for your own production.
Could you share with us some of your forecasts about key technology developments in Vietnam in the next 5 years?
The first thing is the automation. Automation technology doesn't mean come to replace the worker, but automation technology will be implemented in the manufacturer to make them have the production in time, and every piece of the production will meet the standard. That is one thing. The second thing is the advance of the machinery. There are a lot of the machinery from many countries, but anyway, in the future, we still need to use the high-end machinery to produce the high-end product. That is the key of the success. Apart from the manufacturing, I see the retail business in Vietnam growing very fast. Digital engagement is the key of the success for the SME. So what I'm going to say is for the Vietnamese people, when they want to engage with the retail business or when they have their own retail shop, I think that not just only for the product and their ability themselves, technology will become a very important thing. Not just only for the face-to-face trade, but it will help you to do the on-trade as a trend as well.
Well, thank you very much for spending your time with us in our show today.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you.
Vietnam has set the goal that by 2020, local mechanical engineering will meet 40 to 50% of total domestic demand and 60% by 2030. To put this ambition into reality, experts believe Vietnam will need to focus on key products, including mechanics for agriculture, forestry and fishery, processing and supporting industries. With huge investment away from Thailand now, Vietnam will need to draft out reasonable strategies and make use of the country's competitive edge compared to other ASEAN nations to revitalize local manufacturing industry. This also wraps up our episode of Bizline this week. Thank you very much for being with us. You can always rewatch our show at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. And for now, goodbye from Hanoi.